Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Chris Mays from New Life Fellowship, and I just want to say welcome to this session of We Are New Life. 2023 is New Life Fellowship's 50th anniversary as a church, and I've been using this opportunity to get to talk and interview some people that have been at the church for varying lengths of time, just to get some stories about the church and about God's faithfulness throughout the years. So tonight, I'm honored and have the privilege of talking to my friend Michael Parrish, and Michael has been, it's an interesting story because Michael has memories of being at the church as a young person, as a small child even, and then later on in life coming back as an adult. So to start off tonight, I just want to say, Michael, thanks for being here.
Yep, thanks for having me.
It's awesome to have you to get to sit down and have this chat. So maybe just to start, give me some early childhood memories of New Life, and then we'll get to the story of how did you get back to New Life as an adult.
Yeah, actually it's hard for me I was thinking, what were my first memories just in life in general? Because, as you know, my parents, John and Aggie Parrish, were there in the mid-'70s, and I was born in 1975, so I really don't remember a time that I wasn't in New Life. I just remember being, from young eyes, 3 or 4, the first memories, and I just remember literally crawling under the seats as service was going on, and my parents correcting me, but I would sneak down and I would crawl under the chairs there in Carnegie Library, and I just remember the music, the joyfulness, and I could feel the presence of the Holy Spirit even at that age. I just knew there was some. I could sense there was something there. There was just so much life in that room, and I just knew something. And those are really my first memories of just seeing, hearing the sounds, the worship, and seeing the Jesus banners on the wall, the big Jesus banners. I mean, I'll never forget it. Today, it's just like, it happened yesterday.
Right.
And that's first memories.
So you were literally born in the house.
Really?
You really are a child of New Life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Who, from some of those, because I grew up in the church also, we have a similar time frame of being at the church, and I think often of some of the people I remember from back then. Who are some of the names or faces that you remember from way back then?
So, of course, Pastor Dudley and you and your mom, Aunt Winnie, and Robert Steinbach, Marianne, the Weavers, Keith and Jean, and Kevin. I remember Kevin Weaver. He was about my age. Randy Johnson, of course. The Joneses, and just so many. I don't want to forget anybody, but just they were like giant, literally giants to me.
Yeah.
But also just spiritual giants. Even today, just such great people. Even the Barretts, Jim Barrett and his family a little bit later, and the Clark family and the Busalaki family. I mean, just so rich in families and people. Really, that's what I remember, is couples and people and families. Was the origin that I remember in the 70s. And I look today and I see the same thing today. Couples, young couples. Really, it was young couples back then. I see a lot of young couples today, and families. And I just love that about New Life.
I think there really are cycles that repeat in a family, in the natural, and in churches. You see seasons of, there's a whole bunch of people of this age, or there's a whole bunch of young single people, and then the next thing you know, there's a bunch of young married couples.
Yeah.
Like it does happen cyclically over time, but it's just another testimony of God's faithfulness, that He's always bringing, He's always adding, and connecting generations.
Yep. And I think the younger kids we have today, and I know that they're soaking it in, and they're looking to the younger couples today, even the older ones that are teaching and serving. They're just looking at them as spiritual giants, and I know as they get older, they're gonna think back like I do and think, wow, what a great people and what a great place.
Yeah, I agree, because some of the names you mentioned earlier, I remember my mom holding them up to me as examples, saying, be like them, work hard at school, do this, and you'll be successful like them, or you'll be able to walk with Jesus and know what it means to follow Him if you follow their example. So that's always a great heritage to have, looking back and saying, okay, I saw those who went before me. Man, completely out of the blue, not on my question list, but it's just a reminder, I think, that we should let those people know how much they meant to us while they're still around. Because some people that I remember from being a young man in the church or a young child, they've gone on to be with the Lord. So I won't get to thank them face to face, but that is a reminder for me of I need to go back to some of those people and just say, thanks for being an example. You might not even know you planted seeds, but you did.
It's so true. And I just think of the legacy of families, couples, even the elders, deacons over the years, just such a legacy to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the preaching is such a legacy, your father and yourself and your mom.
Yeah.
And even the worship, I can't leave that out, because that's first or second thing I just remember as a child is the worship, just the music and the legacy we've had with the worship leaders. There's been so many families that, Randy Johnson back in the beginning and the whole team that was there, Tom Hickling. I mean, was always active and doing things outside of the church too, and such a history there. And of course, Busalakis, the Clark family, on and on. And then today, that legacy continues with the good worship that we have today. The folks today that are just willing to serve and bring it, and it's just good to see that it's a lasting legacy. It's a real.
I think that's part of worship, is part of what God planted in the DNA of New Life. Like no matter what, there's something special about worship. Like people come ready to worship, and the presence of Jesus is always here. So that's a good reminder to think of. So your story is a little interesting because you were in the church as a child, but then through various circumstances of life, your parents had moved on to elsewhere, and you went to another church for a while. Maybe fast forward to what was going on in your life when you came back to New Life, and how did it feel in some senses to come home or to come back? What was that process like? Because I know there's a lot of people that maybe were in a church experience as a younger person or a different season in life that maybe don't feel like they can go back, or it would be awkward. But what was going on in your life, and what did it feel like to come back?
I never felt. I always felt like there was a friend here at New Life. Even when I was away, I lived in Monroeville for some time, and different places, different faces, and was churching in different areas. But there was always that fraternity, that familiarity of New Life, and my parents would always stay in contact too with New Life, and you guys we always have the yearly services we'd have over the years in the 80s, 90s, these in this, the yearly
like the anniversary services, celebrations.
Yeah, so I would come to some, they would always come, and there was always still a connection, So when things changed and turned and came back to this side and life happened, and I always knew that, and you had really always been there too and reached out, and really your family, even your dad was always like that with my dad. He was always there, if when needed and when not needed, he was always there, which is a good thing. And so you were there for me when I needed a place, or just to talk, and that just welcomed me back in. And then coming back it was so easy. It was a familiar place, familiar faces, and a lot of folks remembered me. My brother Todd came back for a while before he passed, and he was welcomed the same, and it was just welcoming love. And man, it really feels good just to know there's always a place.
Yeah.
It's like there's no place like home.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like here.
I feel that way about our church, that there always ought to be a feeling of I can go home again. Like there's nothing that should happen where we feel like, I could never go back, or I wouldn't be accepted, or the cliche I've heard some people say, well, I was afraid to go back to that church because lightning might strike me, or like right. there's none of that here. Right. Anytime somebody that's been away for a long time, I've seen it over the years, is they come back through the doors, and there's people that remember them, they embrace them, and they're just happy to see them again and say welcome back. So that's good to hear. It's a good
approach. Thank you for carrying that legacy on, because it's a better approach than to shut the doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's not what Jesus did to any of us. So why would we shut the doors on anybody else? Thinking about coming back that second time to the church, almost like coming again, and there's fresh faces. There's some familiar faces that you remembered from the past. But are there any of the people that were here the second time around that stick out to you the way that list came to your mind for the first time you were at New Life? How about the second time? Are there people that stand out?
I mean, the Max welcomed me right away. Steve and Karen, and just going to their Bible study for quite a while after first coming back. That was so nice just to spend time with them and soak in the Word and the Gospel with them. But the Weavers were here, of course. The Clarks were here. You guys were here. Just so many. Calvin and Connie were here. So just and that's nice to see after all those years. Hey, this still feels the same. It still feels like home. The same people here, still serving the Joneses, another family, and boy, it just feels comfortable.
Yeah, and there are. I've noticed you've made also some new friends that I'm thinking of, like Eric and Tim and some of those guys that it's almost like they've been with you for 40 years. Like you've just made such a connection, or they're just good friends. I think is this. New Life is a place to find Jesus and good friends. Maybe we could say it that way.
I would agree. That's another legacy of New Life, is just finding friends, whether, hanging out to go to lunch after church, which is also a big part of the culture of New Life, is
food keeps coming up in these interviews.
Fellowship, yes. And just, you'll make friends here. You will. And sometimes it's on us to make. Sometimes we have to go a little bit, a mile or extra mile. Sometimes it comes to us. But I've never had any trouble here at New Life. There's such a diversity of ages, people, and it's easy to make friends. Never had any issues with that. And Eric and Tim have been nice. I'm glad they came to New Life, and just different personalities. I guess I like that.
Yeah. Thinking about your time at New Life. Are there one or two things that you can think of, man, I learned this by being here and it helped me in my walk with Jesus or my life? Are there nuggets that you could distill it down to one or two things?
I have to go back to worship for me. Just maybe this is how I would say it. It blew any kind of stink or persona negative of worship. That was never in me, ever, from my youth. It was so easy and comfortable to just experience worship and praise and worship. I think because I had been around it from such a young age that I would have to say that the worship. And so the worship here has always been good and spirit and truth type of worship, and putting Jesus out there as the focus. And I would say, for me,
so you really learned to value worship.
I would say I did.
Not just as hey, we're checking the box of this was what normally happens in a service, but there really is a connection and something authentic in worship.
Yeah, and the worship team, they've always been real people. These are just real people, and I mean, these are people you can go to lunch with, hang out with. These aren't. Sometimes you wonder, is the band really doing their own thing? But they've always been approachable since day one and important and a part of New Life.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yep.
In your time that you've been attending, I was thinking, a lot of times we talk about miracles, and we miss the everyday miracles of, oh, thank you, God, I'm alive, I'm breathing. This is amazing that you're still with me. Like we shouldn't take those for granted. That's miraculous. But then every now and then something happens that it's just like, wow, like that's a sign and a wonder. Or God, there's no other explanation for that other than you did a miracle or something happened. Have you experienced maybe one or two miraculous things that stand out to you over your time at New Life?
I have not had a healing or anything like that specifically, but I would just say definitely, and I would consider this maybe part of the miraculous, but there's been times where you or even Pam have just reached out to me at a certain time, and it was the right time. It needed to happen. That connection needed to be made, and it was made.
Yeah.
Just at the right time, just at the right place. So to me, that's kind of a miracle in another way.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that here for sure at New Life, and thankful for it.
I've heard different people call it different things, whether it was, divine connections or divine timing, or you read my mail or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like, how did they know how to say that, God? Like, did somebody talk to them and tell them what was going on in my life right now? So I think that is miraculous. And when we are aware of it, it's all the more amazing to say, God, you really do know me, hear me, see me. You're real and you're with me. Mm-hmm. That's good. I think it should stir us, like even sharing stories like that, stir faith in other people. Like it's a good reminder, just not to keep our mouth shut, but to let people know, like, hey, God is real and he did this. And
these are things as Christians that we talk about, and then do we really believe it? And I do. We talk about the unseen realm. Is the angelic realm really there? Is it working on our behalf? It is.
Yeah.
It is. And the longer you walk with the Lord and you walk with a family of believers, you'll see things, you'll experience things that there's no way to describe it other than that heaven is kind of orchestrating things and impressing on hearts when they do certain things, and there's no doubt about it.
Yep.
That unseen realm is very active in this realm.
I think heaven breaks through into our lives more than we're aware of it even. Yeah.
Amen.
I know in just thinking of people coming and going over the years, and for various reasons that people go, I know that no church is perfect, and nor do we ever claim to be. So we're not trying to lie or pull the wool over anybody's eyes, but sometimes we have to choose to work through those difficulties, and for whatever reason, something is worth it when we choose to do that. What have you found that keeps you coming back? What are some things that you're like, yes, this is why I've stayed through whatever has come in my life?
There's a couple different angles to this. For one, to be honest, like you said, there's different times where it's just natural that we disagree sometimes, or have a different opinion about something, and maybe we get mad, maybe we get grumpy. We're human, right? Maybe
grumpy's a nice word.
Yeah,
for
maybe
it.
we get grumpy, and it's okay. It's okay here at New Life to be grumpy, to walk away for a day, a week, a month, and collect our thoughts, pray, and we come back, and it's okay. We work it out, we reconcile. I think that is New Testament right there. That is what it's all about, and that's okay. Iron sharpens iron. We round each other out, and it's okay. We have rough edges. And we get a little grumpy sometimes as Christians, but we don't close the doors. We don't, shut each other out. We're a family of believers. And I would say that's important to have, number one. But number two, what keeps coming back is just the opportunity to serve, to be honest. I love to serve. I like to serve. Serving with Sandy is great. And again, back to the worship and the teaching, I just, it's something I look forward to. You go all week long with the stresses of life and work, but you have Sunday, you have that time to just worship and serve. You can worship through serving. I mean, you can work different ways, and we just have the opportunity here. And you're very gracious, you and Pam, of just extending that to anybody who wants to serve. There's a way. We'll find a place.
That's a great reminder, because I think too many times people pigeonhole, well, worship means singing. Or worship means playing an instrument. Well, worship can also mean giving and serving and doing those things that we're doing them unto the Lord. And it's with a heart, the pure heart and in spirit and in truth. Yeah. That's just as much worship as standing up and raising your hands and singing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. I need to learn that lesson myself sometimes, to remember that. I've given a couple people the opportunity. You were around. You remember my dad, and you've been around with me for a while. Is there a particular Pastor Dudley or Pastor Chris story that comes to your mind?
For me, for your dad, Pastor Dudley, I certainly just remember being, as a kid, just the fellowship. Always. It was after church. It was at Bonanza or wherever the buffet was for the week, wherever.
Dad never met a buffet
there was
he didn't
always
like.
food, fun. But even, your mom and your dad were so welcoming. I just remember going to your parents' house, your house as a kid around Christmas time. We go down in your basement, and the room down there would be all decked out in Christmas stuff and exchange gifts or whatever. And I just remember that welcoming attitude and spirit, and it made me feel good. It was comfortable, I remember playing video games in your bedroom upstairs, and your little turtle that would walk around the house. It's just funny, the little things that you remember. But I remember how welcoming your family is, and even you and Pam today, the same thing. You guys are welcoming. I mean, your messages are good and all that. The worship's great, and Pam's a great worshiper too. But the number one for me is just how welcoming you guys are. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. I appreciate that we have some shared memories. So you remember the turtle running loose in the house.
I do. It was cool.
Oh, man. Well, if we're thinking about how long we've been at the church and celebrating the church's 50th anniversary, what are one or two nuggets of wisdom or advice that you would give somebody that's going to be part of New Life for the next 10, 20, 30 years?
Get involved. Just come. Pray about where the Lord would place you and have you do what kind of ministry, and get involved. We need, we need people everywhere, of course, in every worship and teaching, but we want the right people that God is calling to come in and be a part of something that he's been doing here for 50 years. I really believe it's going to last forever. As silly as that sounds, but I think New Life is going to last forever. I really do. I think it might change over the years, and different people rise up and be a part of it, and it might be called something different or go here or there. But I really believe the core values, the heart of it was set in by Jesus and approved, and I really think it's going to last forever.
That's awesome. There are things that make New Life unique, I think. Which is why we're still here doing what Jesus called us to do with the flavor we're doing it with.
So come and be a part of it. People.
So can we make a date for 50 years from now? We'll do another interview. The next 50th anniversary.
I'll be almost 100.
If we're still around, we'll make a date and we'll do it.
Yep.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, 50 years is a long time to contemplate, and you always leave something out or somebody out. Is there anything else rolling around in your head that you're just like, oh, I wanted to make sure I said this or remembered this for the 50th?
I want to give Jesus some thanks, and the whole host of heaven that's been working and orchestrating in the last 50 years at New Life, and that for starting it, for starting the core that started in the beginning and how it's changed each 5 years, 10 years, and we're here 50 years. Just thank you, God. Thank you, Father, for being here with us throughout every step, and folks have come and gone and come and gone and come. And that's okay. Your hand is upon it. Your vision for this place is here, and I just thank God for New Life, and I'm glad that I've been here and been a part of it. It's made a huge impact in my life, and it's just really set me free in so many areas. I didn't even know, but just growing up in it, I was free of so much as a young child because I was just experiencing everything that was happening, and I'm thankful for that.
That's awesome. Thanks for saying that. I believe that God is at work here, and sometimes I don't value enough, or I underestimate what God deposited in my life from being a part of New Life versus some other religious contexts that I've seen that people have come away from with a lot of baggage or bad stories. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I need to value what you put in me through being a part of this church. So cool. Anything else?
No. I just gonna say that I really don't remember a time in my life that the Lord wasn't there, and I know that's because I was in the house of the Lord from day one, and I'm thankful. We have a lot of little young ones that are running around, and older kids, and they might not know, but one day they're gonna think back and say, "Man, I had a good childhood. I'm glad I was there."
That's awesome.
Yep. Oh. It was a nice, safe place.
Yep. And lessons were deposited that helped them later in life.
Their whole life.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you just taking the time to sit and reminisce and share some of your stories. And I just know I've seen God do amazing things in your life, and I'm grateful that you're here and part of New Life also.
Thank you.
You bring good things to the family.
Thank you.
So
can I say one PSS thing?
Sure, PSS.
And I thank you and Pam for, you've stepped out of the things that you were involved with before you became pastor and took this up. So I thank you for doing that, because it takes a real man to do that. I don't know that I could do it. I think sometimes could I give up my job and just go where he's asking me to go? And of course we say yes, Lord.
Yeah.
But you did it. You really did it. You and Pam did it, and
it is.
Congratulations. Thank you.
It was a matter of prayer. And at the end of the day, just being obedient to what we felt God was calling us to do. So, I find it's easier if you say yes to him in advance, and then whatever he asks, okay, God, I'm just going to do it and trust you.
Yep.
So, thank you. All right, well, thanks for joining us for this session. I just appreciate you taking the time to share this conversation with me and Michael. I trust you were encouraged and blessed by hearing about the faithfulness of God. So until next time, God bless you.